There must have been a big class in marketing somewhere in the capital in the months prior, because a bunch of 20-somethings, you wouldn't believe how many, were coming in every day to offer me a chance to buy publicity in their brand new magazine. Each mock-up was a carbon copy of some innovative pamphlet of ads masquerading as a publication. Each one had the same bullshit. Chez Blas is a story told through its food. Maybe they tried to dress it up with a little content, but for the most part it was just ads for restaurants, and I could have space in this new and innovative one for the low price of just 3,000 catales. It got to be, I could tell exactly what someone was going to try and sell me the second they walked in. They were all from the city, upper middle class, with a binder under one arm, and the smug confidence of a recent graduate. So, when the sales rep from Nose Picker magazine waltzed in with a binder and a patronizing, "I'll let you in on something" expression, I groaned. Now, I've already told you this in the last book, but I felt I had to lay it out for this guy. I mean, he was the 12th guy to come in with the same frickin' proposal in the last month. I have something you're gonna want to get in on early. Jesus. They all even use the same pickup line. "Look," I said, "I don't want to be rude," which is exactly what you say when you're about to be rude. You know how a pretty girl will get hit on at least 10 times a day every day for years? Imagine she's in her early 20s, blossomed at 17. She's already been hit on several thousand times. She's heard it. Whatever you have to say, as original as you think it might be, she's heard it. "I don't see how that relates," he started. "I'm that pretty girl," I said bluntly. The corner of his mouth twitched in a startled little smile. What? Everything you're about to say, I've heard it. You have a brand new publication that'll be strategically placed in every upscale hotel's lobby with an exclusive map of Antigua and a hot new style of neuromarketing, like that revolutionary red pinstripe on your brochure, which is key for planting subliminal suggestions in the minds of potential customers. Well, I've heard it 11 times already from the other people who went to the same marketing class you did. "No, hold on," he said hastily. "This is something different. This is a real magazine with articles that say that you're a story told through your food." "I'm sure you do. How long your fingernails should be for best reach and catchment, how long you should wait to pick a scab as opposed to dried mucus, whatever. It's all the same." The guy frowned. "What?" "I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't want to be rude, but you're just another guy with the same pickup line, and I'm tired of it. I have work to do, and I don't have time for this." Now, he had no way of knowing that he wasn't original. I bet he'd gone home from that class just like everybody else, thinking that he was the only one who was going to start that very day and revolutionize publicity in Guatemala. Maybe he had gone to a little extra trouble to make it the tiniest bit more interesting than everyone else had, and that's why he was late showing up. Maybe. But at that moment, I was overcompensating, and he had arrived just in the nick of time. I could put him in his place to make myself feel better by comparison, and that's when it hit me. I was acting just like my father, speaking with his voice. Let's call a quick time out to tell you more about my dad. I used to think he was the greatest man in the world. He used to call me and my brothers his princes, so we assumed he was a king. He was tough but fair, and when we got in trouble, we knew it was because we were in the wrong. Then we moved to the U.S., to Palm Beach, Florida, where I apparently should have been held back a year in school. My grades in the Bahamas were good, but now the math was too advanced for me. I just didn't grasp it, and the further we got, the less I understood. If I had swallowed the shame of going back to 3rd grade, not only would I have been caught up with everybody else, I'd be just a little bit bigger than all the other kids, not smaller. I'd have been a little bit ahead of the game instead of far behind, and it would have grown up that way instead of as an underdog. But I just tried to keep my head down and not let on that I was so lost. Yeah, dumb idea, I know. But I saw how little the teacher cared about whether we understood the things we read aloud in groups, so it made sense that I could skate by on math. If you don't really care, you can just skip this part. I want to include it because it's something that made an impact on me and led me to make a lot of the mistakes I made later. We'd be reading aloud, and I actually liked reading, so I'd read ahead. In this case, it was a story about a dumb but well-meaning friendly monster named Lummox. Hey, we were in 4th grade, what did you expect? But I didn't know how to pronounce Lummox, so I skipped to the glossary in the back. There it was, Lemmox, a stupid, clumsy person. I read an explanation why it was pronounced that way, because if a vowel is followed by a single consonant, it has a long vowel sound. If it's followed by a double consonant, it has a short one. That's why it's tomato, not tomato. So when the girl 2 turns before me pronounced it lumix, and the teacher didn't correct her, the next reader said it that way too. When it was my turn, I said it lemix, the way the book said to. Man, they pounced on me, all of them, even the teacher. Was I deaf? Did I not hear the way the others had pronounced it? What was wrong with me? But it's pronounced lemix, the book says so. The teacher heaved a dramatic sigh. Johnny, it doesn't actually say how to pronounce it, so it's pretty much left up to you to decide how to say it. And Cathara's already decided that it's lumix, so we're going to go ahead and say it that way. But back here in the glossary, the group erupted in scornful laughter. Oh my God, Johnny thinks that word is in the glossary. But it is, I said, opening up to it. It's right here. It's a proper noun, the teacher said while laughing. It's not going to be there. It is here. Right here. Johnny, just learn to admit when you're wrong. Yeah, Johnny, I say tomato, you say tomato. But this is a class, I insisted, where we're supposed to learn to be doing things the right way, right? So this is the right way. Let's take a second to actually look at it. I got sent to the office for 1, being disruptive, 2, daring to question the teacher, and 3, obviously having an attitude problem that should be dealt with at home. I started getting bullied that day and disciplined at home, so yeah, I developed a real attitude problem. Teacher didn't give a shit, so why should I? My dad started making a point to help me with my homework, and when we got to math, whenever I made a mistake, he would start screaming. Now, maybe other kids can concentrate when their dad screams at them, but I wasn't that good at it. Instead, I froze up. Then he'd smack me out of the chair to the floor and spray me with spit as he screamed, "If you're not done with that problem by the time I count 10, I'll slap you again until you are. 1! And I would cower on the floor until he got to 5. Sure, you can call me a coward all you want, but it was terrifying. I'd get up finally, shaking like a little bird, pick up my pencil, and wince at the spit hitting my cheek, squinting at blurry numbers until, bam, I was on the floor again, and the count started over. It happened over and over for years. He figured I must have liked getting hit so much. At least that's what he told Mom. Anyway, you might think that to avoid getting hit was motivation enough for me to be a better student, but oddly enough, the opposite happened. What a mystery. I stopped paying attention, started hanging out with those dumb kids at the back of the class, started doing what they did instead of studying. They were all thieves, so I became a thief. We spent our time perfecting the arts of shoplifting and picking pockets. I'd steal candy and bring it to school to sell, and kept watching the older kids to see what they considered cool. Their big thing was smoking cigarettes and getting into fights, so that's what I did. I watched movies to see what Hollywood said cool kids did, and they drank, did drugs, and competed to see who could have the most girlfriends. I modeled myself after Danny Zuko, the Fonz, and Richie Gennaro. I got the leather jacket, had the hair, and everything. I tried to be everything an Italian boy should be. By the way, those of you just turning in, Johnny Yen is not my name. It was my alias for a bit, and I prefer using it in these books because I feel like a schmuck using my real name. I'll explain about my real name, though, and you can file it under foreshadowing. Farrar was the name I was born with, but it was not my father's. My father was born a Scalizzi, and my great-grandfather, Filippo Scalizzi's name, is on an obelisk in the center of Gudrano, a town in Sicily. I got to go there and see it years ago. Now, being Sicilian in New York during the 1950s wasn't very fashionable. My father was called Shit Lizzie by a bully in school, and my grandfather decided changing our name would make life easier for them. There was a popular candy called Ferrara, and we have distant relatives named Farrar, so he chose that. It would sound more American, whatever that means, and they would fit in. My father was so happy that he couldn't wait to tell everyone at school, especially the bully. Unfortunately, that kid came out immediately with the new nickname, Ferrara Nougat Shit. Well, now that my dad was the dad, he was the biggest kid on the playground, which was our house. So it was finally his turn to push around the smaller kids. Those smaller kids happened to be his kids. I suppose his revenge was sweet, just as mine might someday be if I don't somehow break the cycle.